This episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions, Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com, use the code SHOW20 for 20% off and free shipping. Now, after using Manscaped, I can finally say I have caught the spring fever. Introducing the season's champ, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little bit off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It also features dual LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest winter debris. Navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. Hate making a mess? Not to worry, this bad boy is waterproof. Shave in the shower, in the bath, even in the ocean. Personally, I love this thing because it comes with a compact case. I take it wherever I go, and spring cleaning doesn't just have to apply to your nether regions. Get the full grooming experience with Manscaped's signature Beard Hedger Pro Kit and Handyman Electric Face Shaver. Whether you're looking to craft your signature look or clean up that neckline, these are always the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SHOW20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code SHOW20 at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. Hello everyone and welcome to the FM show. I am your host Tony Jameson, and joining me as always is my right hand man Aaron Falloon, aka RDF Tactics, and joining us is a returning guest. It's the one and only FMLlama. Llama, how are you, pal? Are you well?
I am very well, actually, gentlemen. Lovely to be here. Nice to see you both. I feel like I got the full attendees tonight.
Mate, it's a pleasure to have you. We were saying before we started recording, 3rd time already on the show, but then you discounted your Patreon appearance, which I think is a bit unfair.
Yeah, but my first time with Aaron, so I feel like, no offense, Tony, but this is the first time I've really been on, with a, like-minded individual.
Yeah, it's the first time.
It felt like babysitting before, really.
To be honest, it very much was. It was right, Tony. This is how you do a podcast. All right, thank you, Mr. Llama. Today, of course, we can both bask in the glory of RDF Tactics. Aaron, how are you, pal? Are you good?
Yeah, not too bad. Bit of sweet feeling. So earlier I was recording a Patreon episode for my gang. So I created this tactic. It's like a 4-3-3 that goes into a 3-4-3 diamond, and then So I created it in the video, but then I thought, let me try and win the World Cup with England using this tactic. So I'm recording away on Patreon, the Patreon episode. Of course, we do the job. I go to export it, load it on to Patreon. I'm watching it back. I'm like, what resolution have I recorded this in? And it's all pixelated. I'm like, I didn't change the settings. It's because earlier I needed like low quality videos to put it on Twitter, because instead of like uploading a large one, so I just recorded in the same setting, and it's very bad. It is very bad. So I won the World Cup, but it doesn't feel like I've won the World Cup. You don't get to see it in HD, and it's very upsetting.
I mean, I wear contacts and glasses, so I don't get to see anything in HD, really. So, to be fair, I'm not sure if that actually makes any sense, but I'm gone with it. But, congratulations, Aaron. Congratulations getting the World Cup already. Obviously, we will start talking in upcoming episodes about international management, because there's some sort of tournament happening on over the summer that some people might get involved in, might get interested in. We shall see. We shall see. That's real life football, though, Llama. We're not here for that, are we?
And not this time.
No, not this time. Not this time. How are you getting on, by the way? Because we popped into your stream the other day with quite an interesting save you've got going on at the minute. Now, talk us through it, because some of your audience were a bit confused by the very, very basic stipulation you've given yourself.
Yeah, Tony, to be brutally honest with you, it was a massive mistake from the get-go. It's too hard and I can't do it, but I'm too deep into it to quit now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? We all have these great ideas of long-term saves that are going to be wonderful, and then sometimes 3 streams in, you're going, this is a dreadful idea.
Yeah.
Like, why am I here?
So my idea was to try and become the first club from the north of Sweden, like in a region called Norrland, to win their top division, because no club from the north has ever done it before. And I thought, well, let's make it harder. I'll only sign players who are from the region of Norrland as well, which is only 12% of the population. And most of them play ice hockey or are reindeers.
And 12% of the population of Sweden, which is the population of Sweden is how many?
About 9 mil, I reckon.
Yeah, so 12% of 9 mil is not a lot.
Yeah, not many of them play football. And do you know the hardest thing of the save is literally there is nobody to sign. There are no bodies warm and breathing now to bring into the club. So I'm just stuck in the Swedish second division, and I will be there forever.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the stipulation is very, very clear. And there is a thing where people come in and say, oh, what's the save about? And you explain that we're buying Swedish players from a certain part of Sweden. And my favourite comment was someone who went, can I just sign Brazilians?
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, like as if that thought had crossed your head going, Brazil is known as the north of Sweden.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they just why are you finding this so hard? Just bring in some South American wonder kids. Scout Colombia. What's wrong with you? Didn't think of that.
Yeah, it's fantastic sometimes, Aaron, isn't it, when you get that bit of advice from people going, have you tried doing this? Or like when they go, like my favourite one, I'm sure I said this, I can't remember if I've said this on an episode of the show or not before, or whether it was just we had a conversation beforehand, but I was talking about with managing in Greece, saying, I need a goalkeeper and a right back. And I think you might have been in the stream that night, Llama, and somebody, I'm sure it was their first time in, I was like, I need a goalkeeper and a right back. And they went, Aaron Ramsdale and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I was like, both very good options, but I have £0 and we're in the Greek second division.
Oh my God, man. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes it does break me from sometimes I'm just in that zone. And sometimes there's just one comment that just throws me off. I'm like, oh man, and I'm such a biter as well. Like sometimes I just gotta bite. I have to bite, especially if I've lost the game as well. The worst is when you've lost the game or 2 on the bounce, and it's getting into the third one. You've just conceded, and someone's like, "I just try this," and you're just like, "Mate, we was unbeaten for 20 games. We just lost 3. Like, calm down." And they just start blaming your tactics and stuff, and like, "Mate, calm down." But yeah, sometimes the comments in the chat can throw you off a little bit, but then there's obviously some good help as well. I think we mentioned it before. Sometimes someone does throw that good advice, and you throw it off, and you're like in your head, that's really good advice.
Oh man, Aaron, you'll have been proud of me though. This week, I did a proper TJ Tactics garage turned up.
Oh, so basically, we've been in your streams every time you stream, but what we do, me and the missus, is that so I've got this table that goes up and down. So we set the bed up, we put the table down, and then that's why I'm not in the chat, because I'm actually far away from the keyboard. But we're just laying there, whatever we're doing, and then just watching as well. It's
family vibes with TJ. I mean, a lot of what I talk about, Aaron, is
she has the TikTok on sometimes, which is a bit.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, because you get that TikTok where they find really funny, so they're just watching it, and it's like the same song. It's just like, come on, what's this?
Oh well, Llama. Just for context for you, because I think you've been. Again, you're one of the people who is regularly in the stream, and we have tactical discussions. I remember one day I was trying to you were sort of saying, "Oh, you look, if you're struggling, what's going wrong? What's going wrong? What's going wrong?" And I spoke it through, and you're like, "That makes sense. Now what do you do?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know how to fix it." But
no, neither did I, Tony. I was just asking the questions.
No, but you were a beautiful set of ears for me to talk at and a sounding board. So this episode of the stream, we'd gone on we'd lost 5 games out of 6, and it was November, and I was like, oh, it's like a difficult time for us. We're slipping out of the top 6. We're into 7th. Of course, we need to be in the top 6 to qualify for Europe. January transfer window's approaching, and we've said, I've told Aaron before, we played this 4-3-3, and I was like, something's not quite right. And I was looking at it, and I love a complete wing back on attack on this game. And I had to accept that was the problem with the tactic, was my left back was too far forward most of the time. Offensively, he's brilliant, right?
Man.
But his jumping reach is 3. That is going to be an issue. So often he's up front, and then I had like an inverted winger in front of him as well. So I had no real sort of like cover on the left-hand side. So I was really exposed there. Ball's being played down. And I'm looking at highlights going, we seem to concede a lot down this left channel when there's no fullback. Like, I wonder why that is. And I was like, right, it's probably him. So I was like, right, okay, not complete wing back on attack, complete wing back on support, maybe narrow up a little bit, try and play a bit more compact. I shortened some of the passing down. I put the tempo a bit higher. I went from wing play to control possession. I was like, let's get the football, try and give Job a bit of confidence, because he was playing some ridiculous passes and he was getting us into trouble for a little bit. So I was like, right, no more suicide passes in the team. And I'm sort of tweaking roles. So the shape's the same. We play the same way, but the roles are a bit different and we're a bit more compact. And I was like, right, this will work. And I'm in there. And we say about some comments that throw you off, right? One comment was the absolute belter that I needed, okay? I've got everything set up and I'm looking and I've got Kaiki. I think he's called Kaiki or Kaki.
Yeah.
The lad at Man City, right? He's in my team. I got him for a free transfer. He's been ridiculously good on the right wing. He's got something like 18 assists, 12 assists, and I think he's already got 15 assists this season. We're not even at Christmas, right? On the right wing. The right winger on the right wing. 3 seasons we've had him. Someone in my chat went, he's left-footed, right? I was like, what? Like, he's getting all those assists with his wrong foot. We put him to inverted winger on the right, so he cuts inside. He's already scoring curlers in the top bins. I'm like, did nobody think to tell us? I thought he's just Brazilian. He's showing off because he's got 2 feet, right? I didn't put 2 and 2 together. That's why he's coming inside and tucking balls in the bottom corner all the time. So we've moved him there. Oh, goals are plenty now. We've been battering teams left, right, and centre. We ended up, the stream closed the last night in the January transfer window. We've just signed this absolute baller Chinese player, Li Jinming he's called, 21 years old, so new gen, loads of flair, great free kicks, like a playmaker type player. Like, so Job's 27, okay, is he the future possibly, or a rotation player? Comes in and he's just like pinging balls with the outside of his foot, and I'm like, this kid's pretty decent. He scored 2 goals in 4 games already. He's got assists. I'm like, I think we've done well for free here. Get to the big one. 2 matches against AEK Athens in the quarterfinals of the Greek Cup. Okay, form's flying. We're battering teams left, right, and centre. We're like, we've turned this around. We've drawn with Olympiakos and Panathinaikos as well. Like, right, we're unbeaten in about 6 at this point. First match, we lose. We're 3-0 down to AEK. At half time, I'm like, 3-0's pretty bad, right? We pull it back to 3-2. I'm like, at least we've got a bit of something to play for in the second leg. Yeah. First, second leg rolls around at our place. We go 1-0 up very early on. I'm like, it's on. It's not on because they equalise straight away. So I'm like, of course it's not on. But then it's back on again when we score again to make it 2-1. And then it becomes 2-2, and I'm like, oh, it's not going to happen. Then it becomes 3-2, 4-2, 5-2.
Oof.
Larissa are in the semi-finals of Europe as we win 5-2 on the night. We win, what does that make it? 7-5 on aggregate over AEK, and I'm doing laps of the bedroom. I'm just like, we're the greatest football team in the world. And it couldn't have been more perfect if we hadn't have signed the most Easter player ever. A lad that, shout out, by the way, to my mod Rogie for finding me this guy. Ian, new gen, Ian, Resurrection. His name is Ian Resurrection. You're signing that boy at Easter? Of course you are.
Oh my God.
Big Stone Roses fan.
He's a big Stone Roses fan, exactly. So I've been shouting I am the resurrection to the Stone Roses song in stream, but I just thought it made sense. It was the rebirth of Larissa at the same time. It's got to be a sign, Llama, surely.
Well, absolutely. I mean, sometimes it's just meant to be.
Sometimes it's just meant to be. Aaron, any advance on that one? Have you ever signed some sort of divine inspiration player?
No, but I was just gonna say like that made me laugh about the Kai because I was doing the Stoke thing as well, and I signed this Nigerian lad, and the first goal that he scored, so like his attributes are not, they're like similar to the old Haaland. I don't remember like if you remember about Haaland a few years ago when he was still out one of the old clubs, but he was still like a very good player on Football Manager. He was just missing like a few attributes like first touch and agility and stuff like that. So this guy had that sort of profile, and then the first goal he scored, he smashed it with his left foot. So I'm just like, oh, I've got the next Haaland. So I post his attributes on Twitter, everything the next Haaland. And then recording the video, he steps up for a free kick and he smashes it with his right foot. So I was like, huh? What's happened there? What? What's he done that for? Click this profile. Of course, he's right-footed. I'm just looking at his attributes now. Left foot, weak. So I was like, okay, maybe he's not the next Haaland, but it was like one of those things. I was like, why is that? What's happened there? It's like my mind playing tricks on me. It's like I've just assumed all these goals that he's just smashing in are just all left-footed. But I don't know why I'm just assuming that. I just saw one goal left foot and I thought, yeah, this guy's left-footed. He should be though.
I like that though, because I can imagine Lama that he turns up in training one day and that's like, so he maybe plays a pass with the left foot and then the gaffer's going, right, okay, you're left wing. And he's like, I don't have the heart to tell him that I'm not. Like, I'm a right back. Like, you're just making me play left wing because I've played one pass correctly.
But I didn't know him well at all because at first I'm like, why is he even taking the free kick anyway? Like, he's not a free kick taker. Again, look at his profile. Oh, okay, I can see why he's taking the free kick. He's actually pretty decent at free kick taking. But he's just never, I don't know, he's never taken one. Obviously, he's not the main free kick taker, but it was just like one of those things. Just looking at his attributes, like, oh, wait, he's actually better than I thought he was, actually.
It's like that work colleague that calls you the wrong name, and unless you pick it up early. So there's a lady who knows my name now, but when we first met, she called me Colin, and I didn't correct her. And for months, she'd see me around the village. And she'd go, all right, Colin. And after 4 or 5 Collins, you're too deep to say,
yeah.
Actually, my name's Lama, not Colin, but...
It's easy to get those mixed up, isn't it?
At some point, it becomes easier for you to change your name than it does to have that awkward conversation.
We had it where I worked, right? And like down in the cafe, I used to go down and get a coffee every morning, and speak to the lady who worked there. And she was like, you all right, Tom? And I'm like, Tom, apparently Tom, it's close enough. It's closer than Lama and Colin, right? So I was Tom for about a year, and then they got this loyalty card system in, and she went, "Oh, it's great! This in it, you get to know it. You get to know everyone's names just by scanning it in." So as usual, Tom scans in. You're called Tony, right? Okay.
Yeah, I used to get called Aaron. So there was a lady that ripped my name down with Aaron. So I spelled my name Arron, but she wrote it AA. So then she started saying Aaron. And then I'm the same. Like I hate confrontation as well. So I just leave it. I just leave it. She's just calling me Aaron. But it's like, surely you can hear everyone else call me Aaron. And I'm responding to Aaron. She's like, Aaron.
When you sent me your number on WhatsApp, it came through as Aaron, right? Okay, and I was like, have I been spelling this wrong all the time? And you went, I don't know. I was like,
because the thing is that I don't write anything anymore, and now, especially like on the computer all the time, I don't write my name. It's always RDF or whatever. So it's just like when people write my name, I'm just like, yeah, that's me. Like a lot of letters. I know it's bad, but a lot of letters. It's just Aaron. You tell people your name over the phone, and they just automatically assume it's Aaron. So I'm just like, yeah, I'll leave it. I can't be bothered.
Lama, I love the fact that he's maybe got bills turning up at the house going, no, that's not addressed to me. That's clearly for Aaron.
Bills are different. No, there is one bill that I'm actually paying. It's not like an important bill, but it's like one of those subscription things I'm paying. It's just like, it says Aaron on it. So I was like, what happens? What happens?
It's like whenever I take up the subscription with Joni Jameson, then I'm like, they'll never find me.
Literally. But it's like, oh wait, I also need the subscription as well, so maybe not.
Joni Jameson does sound like a country and western star.
Does a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. I think I could do quite well with that. Actually, maybe a bit of a side hustle if I ever move to Dallas. It's got me thinking that now, though. should we try and get back a little bit back on track and start talking as to what we got you in for, Lama? I know
We've gone off track.
No, I apologize. It feels weird being me going, should we steer the car back on the road? Because normally I'm the one going, hey, we're way off track here, we're lost. Right? And I'm like, let's just steer it back over, see where we're getting to. But we last had you on, Lama, right? Because we have you, and you're known as the man with 1,000 saves, 1,000,000 saves, 82 saves. Okay, you're the man responsible for Larissa. For me picking Larissa.
Yeah, that's
so
my
over
fault.
Christmas. Well, not your fault. You're the one that takes the credit at this point. Okay. Over Christmas, we gave you a task of setting our listeners 50 new potential saves because, of course, the game was out and people were maybe thinking, "Hey, now's a good time to do something interesting, things they'd never done before." And we thought we'd get you back in. Because again, I think we're in a good cycle of the game now. People have had it for a while. Maybe people have finished their saves. They're now going, what's new? What's different? What's exciting? What have I not done before? And you, my friend, are the person we come to talk to about youth-only saves.
Apparently so. Yeah.
Apparently so. Aaron, have you ever youth-only'd?
I've tried it, attempted it, and then just give up. It's one of those saves for me that I'm just too involved with recruitment. I like recruitment. I like that element of bringing in players. But then sometimes with youth only as well, you might get that to a moment. It depends on what team you are, of course, which obviously Lama is going to get onto which team he is. So he might not have this problem for any time soon. But if you do pick a team like Benfica, for an example, there does become a point where you've just racked up so many millions, of course, not spending and using youth only. And it's like, I really want to spend this money. And once you buy one, that's it. That is it. That the floodgates are open. You're like, just Brazilians only. Then it goes to Argentinians. Okay, South America.
That Ukrainian striker is perfect.
Wait, he's Ukrainian and Brazilian? That counts. It's like, well, I've got one Ukrainian. Might as well get another.
he was 18 before, so clearly.
That's what happens with my youth only saves. But they sound so interesting, man. I just need to be a person that can stick with something like that. A challenge like that.
Okay, so Lama, break it down. I guess this is the first point. Define what a youth only save actually is.
Well, so that's, I mean, that in itself is a pretty difficult question because people play youth only saves in different ways, and so there tends to be two, and they're both a good challenge, and they're both perfectly valid ways of playing. So the first is where you only allow yourself to sign players for your under 18. So you're signing new gens that come through at other clubs, maybe 16, 17-year-olds. So you still kind of scratch that itch that Aaron has where you want to recruit players and you want to scout and you want to kind of make sure that you are spending the money that you have in your budget. But you've still got the process of having to take those raw youngsters and develop them into first team players. But that's not enough for some people. They like to make it even more brutal for themselves and only allow themselves to use players that have come through their own youth intakes. So those are your two different gateways into youth only saves, really.
Okay. So yeah, that's right. Okay, already my head's going, this sounds like the sort of thing I'd be quite interested in because this sounds horrific. So it doesn't sound easy. So you can bring players in from your own youth system. Now, already I'm thinking back to my current Larissa save and thinking, oh boy, 10 seasons I've been at that club, and this is the first season on my youth intake reports I've got anybody coming in who is above a D. I have a B-rated winger coming in, and every other player for the last 10 years has been D and below. So that's going to be really tough.
Yeah, but you're also 10 seasons in, and the focus of your save has never been about developing youth players yet, has it? If you had decided to do a youth-only save from the outset, and rather than investing in salaries and transfer fees, you'd invested in things that might improve your youth intakes, well, you might have been getting B grade or even that fabled golden generation much sooner.
Okay. So, Aaron, in that sense, then, are we chucking money into youth setup, or are you still going, I'd rather just buy things?
So when I play saves, that my intention is always there to sort these things out and improve it, which I always do. But then there's always that new shiny toy, right? It's like you scout and you're like, well, they're the same age. He's clearly a level above. I might as well just sign this guy. So I have had a golden generation though, and it was very early on. And I remember being convinced that FM did this to people saves on. Like I remember doing a Leon save, and it was like my first intake. It was like golden generation. And I was like, what? Because this is the first save that we were doing on stream. Then it got to the second season. It was like, it wasn't another golden one, but we got like, now it's the best player that we've ever had from intake. And it was just like, just keeps happening. But this was like when FM first released, so like the very first patch and stuff. And it was like, it was constant. So I did actually have the experience though of getting intakes, new gens, and then becoming actual very important players in the team. I've had that experience, luckily. But generally in saves now, I tend to buy, but I still do spend the money on the youth facilities and stuff, just in hope, just in case it does happen.
I had a golden generation at Blythe Spartans once, Llama. I think one of those players went on to be a footballer.
Wow.
So one of them. Not saying what level, but he still continues. So okay, well let's go back then. So instead of buying players, you're talking here about setting up. Okay, so we're going to focus on bringing youth players through our ranks.
Yeah.
Okay, so already my head's thinking obvious things we can do to improve. So we obviously want better youth coaching, youth facilities, head of youth development, training facilities. Would that count? Or
well, to be honest, I'd even go back a stage further than that. And if you're thinking about doing a youth development save, I think you've got two crucial decisions to make before you even worry about facilities. So number one is, what nation are you going to do your save in? Because that will have an impact on not the quality of new gens you're bringing through relative to other teams in your league, but it will affect the overall quality of new gens. So if you do a youth only save in, say, Brazil, you're going to bring through better players than if you do it in Gibraltar, for example. So you've got to decide that first of all. And then, there are very famous nations that have a conveyor belt in Football Manager of really good new gens. But then you've also got to decide, well, once I've picked my nation, what type of club am I going to do my youth only save in? So imagine you go for a country that's famous for developing good youngsters, like the Netherlands. Well, if you do a youth only save at one of the big three, Ajax or Feyenoord or PSV, you are automatically set up to play a youth only save effectively. Now, there's still challenge in that, because if you're managing Ajax and the only players you can play are ones that come through your own academy, and PSV and Feyenoord are not doing the same thing, that's a really challenging save. To try and topple the other big two when they're signing players and you're not, that's a great challenge. But if you go and do it in the second tier with De Graafschap, for example, then they might have reasonable facilities, but not to the level that Ajax or Feyenoord have. And so you can start a longer journey, if you like, where you've got to try and build the club's facilities as part of the save in order to generate the kind of youngsters that will allow you to challenge the top clubs. So I would say country of origin and club are your first two decisions if you want to do a youth-only save. Then you can start thinking about, well, how can I improve the youth intakes that I'm getting? And then once I get my youth intakes, how can I turn these great players into wonder kids?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because already, again, I'm thinking back to saves I've had before. I know there's a club I was affiliated with for a little while that have a very, very good youth setup. So if you ever want to play Scandinavian football, I'd be recommending Oddball Club as a club there. They've got some cracking young players that come through. And again, their actual recruitment strategy for young players is players from the local area. So that's what they do. They focus entirely on bringing the players in and then selling them off, because that's how they generate their income. So if we're looking now at maybe Brazil, maybe Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, Aaron, Croatia starts to give me little tingles about the idea, going, can we find a 14-year-old Luka Modric? That's a thing. You
Yeah.
could do that, couldn't you?
Even I think someone like Serbia as well.
Oh, yes.
The things that I don't completely understand about the game. Maybe Lana could maybe help with this. So if I do pick like a Serbia, and I want to do youth only, does it also like you're also dipping your toes sort of in building that nation, because obviously you do want the level of the intakes to increase as well. And that's only going to increase by if the nation obviously does well in their competitions and that league starts to become a higher rep league as well. So you're also sort of relying on you. It might actually depend on you, because you might have to win these European trophies, because you're not going to be in Serbia expecting your neighbours to be winning European trophies as well. So it might actually depend on you, a little bit like what Tony's going through as well. So you may be dipping your toes a little bit into building a nation a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what makes youth only save so exciting right now, that Sports Interactive have developed this dynamic youth rating.
That was the question. I actually lost the question as I was talking.
So you're absolutely right. I mean, Serbia produce pretty decent youngsters, but Sports Interactive or the game gives every nation a score, a rating out of 200 for the quality of player that they produce. And before that was always static. So if you were in Gibraltar, you would have barely any chance of bringing through increasing quality of youngsters. But now that it's dynamic, that's an option. So, you could take Serbia up the rankings through the quality of player that you're developing in your own youth intakes.
Nice.
Of course, when you're at a big club, your youth intakes aren't just restricted to players of the nationality of the country.
Yeah.
Through things like affiliate clubs and scouting networks and things. I've had players from all over the world come through. And my youth recruitment save was in Norway, for example. I did one once. This was a mistake, but I did a youth only save at Kettering. Yeah.
Why was that a mistake, Lama? Just genuinely curious. No, like sort of jokes or anything at that point.
Well,
why did you think that was a mistake?
I'll put it like this. So it's on YouTube, and if you have a look at how many episodes there were of that series, you'll be able to work out why it's a mistake.
Right. Okay. Am I just one hand, or do I get the second hand as well?
Well, it was short and not very sweet.
Okay.
Short and bitterly miserable.
That's the title of my next tour.
Yeah,
so don't.
That's what my next door neighbour refers to me as.
It's another bill, short and bitterly.
Short and miserable.
You make a great point, and it's made me think.
That's my one for the night.
Yeah. It's been a great show, everyone. Take care. No, you made a great point about if you pick a bigger team, because I always think about these saves when we talk about them as these sliding scales of difficulty. My initial thought straight away is let's go right to the bottom and make it as hard as possible. But then there's also what's the easier way of doing this? And I don't think that going in at the top team is the easier way. Like you're saying there, Ajax, they're set up. They'll probably have a decent set of players to come through. Granted, but you're right. Feyenoord and PSV can go out and just buy players. Milan, for example, the rest of Serie A aren't just only producing Italian kids. There's a reason that the teams who win, even Barcelona with La Masia, still bring players in and just add the pieces. Aaron was sort of touching upon it almost when he was saying about being in charge of Benfica, for example, having this great squad of homegrown players, but you can't help but look at the transfer list or other players you see play against you going, oh, he'd be good in my team. And he just, the final piece of the puzzle because you've seen a player play against you a few times going, he does exactly what I need. And I haven't got one coming through my system. That makes it so much harder. And the pressure to win at these top clubs.
I was going to say, yeah.
You could get sacked by the end of the first season before you've even begun building that youth-only save.
Yeah, so I would say a youth-only save with Barcelona, for example, or even Real Madrid, I would say that's tougher than starting out at a club in the bottom playable division that has good youth facilities.
Yeah.
So I did one in Norway, and I started in the Norwegian third division. And I started at a club called Tromsdalen, who shared the training facilities of Premier Division Tromsø. So they had pretty decent facilities. And it was a challenge because I couldn't sign anybody. But once those youth players started to come through, and I was playing at a low level at a club where nobody expected anything, I had time to allow those youth players to come through and develop them and improve. And eventually we rose up the ranks. If I'd have gone straight in at Barcelona, if you're not winning that league title within 2 seasons, your save's done. And you think within 2 seasons, you haven't even developed Pedri or Ansu Fati fully yet. Never mind the new gens that come through at the end of season 1. So this is what makes youth-only saves quite a refreshing challenge. You can take charge of a big club, or if you just want control of everything, you can take charge of Kettering and try and build everything from the ground up.
Okay, Aaron, there's the challenge that's thrown down to you then, mate. Youth only save, win the Champions League in 2 years at Barcelona with just kids.
I was going to say, and I'm fairly annoyed because it was reported as a bug because I think it happened to a few people, but unreasonable. But I was Barcelona and I've done this before, like the La Masia sort of thing, and we did get sacked. We won the league the first year, but obviously, and initially, sometimes starting at a big club, you might be able to win that trophy, but then that's when the drop off does come as well. And it was like the second season, so it was a youth only thing, but it was this thing that, I mean, Messi was available and it was like, come on, chat, you got to allow me this one. Messi's there. Bring in Messi. Second in the league, got knocked out of the quarterfinals of the Champions League, but second in the league, just 2 points behind, and then they just sacked me. I think it was like, I don't know, they say it was a bug that when that trigger was a bit too, that it was a bit too easy for you to get the sacked in the game. But I also like that element because I didn't get, like, you could sort of imagine that in real life as well. Like, I felt the expectations in Europe in the first season. Second season, I've only got the quarterfinals. It's just like, well, you've won the league. It's not the most important. We want to be great in Europe. Just sacked off. But that was also because like you can't sign that player or those players that you need. And I was going to say that you get a tactical challenge as well because you might want to play with a target forward and you're not just there year after year, just waiting for that target forward. So it's like sometimes you might not be able to even play in the way that you want to, which is also another challenge in the game.
It's starting to add so many more layers
of
possibility in this now. Like I've never, like I say, this is not a style of FM I've played, but I'm starting to like get my groove on it a little bit, thinking, okay, cool. So you're right. I'm going to be dictated. My style of play, my tactic is going to be dictated by what I've got in front of me. Clearly,
yeah. But you can try and influence that.
Oh, you can. Yeah, absolutely. You can. And we all know how that goes. Conversations with the board tend to be great. I'm not particularly good at telling the boards that things will be fine.
Sorry, when I said you can try and influence that. So one thing that's really interesting about youth development says is that through the staff that you hire, and particularly through the head of youth development that you hire, they are going to have sort of preferred formations and tactical styles. So if you work on, rather than recruiting players, but you try and recruit a backroom staff in the image of the football that you would like to play, then in the fullness of time, hopefully, they'll start to develop the kind of players, even if you have a preferred DNA. Like I always like my players, even when I'm signing players, to have really high kind of like Wimbledon-esque Millwall attributes like teamwork, bravery, aggression, work rate. Well, if you try and hire backroom staff with the kind of personalities and with the attribute of high determination and level of discipline and things, you can start to bring through the kind of new gens that are really in the image of what the football is that you'd like to create.
Now you're talking my language, Lama. You've started mentioning DNA. You've started mentioning influential backroom staff. That's the bit that's got me excited again because I was as we were talking away there with the whole bit where Aaron talking about getting sacked. I was wondering, and I went off on a tangent in my head. I was wondering, picking the team can be quite tricky because some expectations of clubs are to sign players over the age of 30 or sign players who are high-profile players, or that is going to be a sackable offence if you're just focusing entirely on youth players. So you kind of got to do a bit of research, and forgive me if this is allowed or not allowed. I don't know what the official rules are. Are you allowed to load the nation up to see the setups of the clubs first, or do you just go straight in?
No,
I know the answer. I
think you'd be naive not to, really. But
yeah,
if a club has listed in its philosophies of developing players using its own youth intakes, then that would be the ideal.
Yeah. And you can get that on the start thing, can't you? Like when you you go on your squad selector, it might throw up someone who's maybe a bit more interesting as well.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I hadn't thought about them. Oh, and their kit's nice as well, which I think is also part of it.
I wouldn't say that it's against the rules. In my head, you're just doing the due diligence before you sign for a club.
Yes.
So, like, if you're a manager, you're not just going to turn up. Like, you just get the offer. Like, all right, yeah. You do these meetings where you do go to the training ground and you check out the facilities and stuff. And if it's not at your standard, you probably won't sign. But what I was going to say earlier, actually, as well, because I think it's important, because I have seen a few people have a moan at this as well, is that when you update or upgrade, I should say, your facilities, and you sign these coaches, that people just assume, boom, the next intake, then it should start rolling in. Like, you don't get, like, class of 92 wasn't built just because of what they did in 91. Like, it takes time, it takes years. If I build training facilities around the corner, I'm not just going to suddenly find the next Messi. It's going to take time. And obviously, we've got to perfect what we do at the training facilities as well. But it's just going to take time.
It all links in as well with the success of the club, because I've been saying this on my stream, because we've put money into the youth facilities and the head of youth development and the youth coaches, and we've got, like, the staff are good, the facilities are improving, but ultimately we've not won anything. And where do kids want to train? Kids want to go and play at the teams that are winning things, so they'll turn up to try and get into those academies. So I've not got the pick of all the kids in Greece, because AK and Olympiakos and Panathinaikos and PAOK have got those. We're getting the ones who are knocked away from those academies and released, and then going, we'll get them when they're 11 or 12 or something. Like, we're not getting them at 8, So, and even then, they're not coming through until they're 16. So I've got another 8 years to wait before I even see whether these are going to be any good or not. It's time to say hello to the newest sponsor of the FM show. Everybody, say hello to Full-Time Prints. Full-Time Prints offer a variety of prints to give football fans the chance to remember their favourite football moments forever. They currently offer a range of goals, team sheets, commentary and league tables. Prints are available in A4 through to A1 and can be bought with or without a frame. It makes the perfect gift for occasions such as Christmas, birthdays, Father's Day, Mother's Day, just because presents. Seriously, this is the perfect gift for every football fan. You want to go on the website, browse what they've got. They've got so many things to choose from, whether it's teams, European teams, international teams, moments that happen. And if you can't find something you like, you can even do a custom request. You can create anything you've seen yourself. Maybe you've seen a goal you want to relive. You can have that. Maybe you want to relive the first match you ever attended. Or maybe, if you're a Football Manager fan, you might want to do a custom one just designed for Football Manager that immortalizes your save forever. You can have a print done that has all your trophies, the entirety of the save, the key moments. Maybe you want to relive the Champions League final and have your team sheet and everything on there. You can do that with Full-Time Prints. I'm thinking about getting myself one, and I'm going to put it right behind my head in my office, just behind here. And as a little sweetener for you, we've got a little bit of discount to help you out here. So use the code TheFMShow. We'll get you 10% off your entire order. Go to fulltimeprints.com. Use the discount code TheFMShow. That's 10% off your entire order, and there's free shipping on orders over 50 quid. So go get yourself a Full-Time Print. Immortalize that Football Manager save. Let us know what you've got. Visit fulltimeprints.com. Use the discount code TheFMShow. Get yourself 10% off. And remember, free shipping on orders over 50 quid.
So, Tony, did you know that in a Football Manager season, you actually have 2 youth intake days rather than just 1?
Do you? I know. Is that with a trial day, or is that?
No. So how it works is when you improve your facilities, that will improve the quality of new gens that your player brings through. But behind the scenes, you can't see this in your game. Each year you take on a new youth intake who are kind of 13 or 14 years old. So the year that you improve your junior coaching or your youth recruitment, you might be improving the 13-year-olds that come into your club, which you can't see and are just kind of sat there in the algorithm somewhere behind the scenes. And those players aren't actually going to come through in your youth intake that you can see and sign for another 2 to 3 seasons. So it can be really frustrating when you think, I've just spent £3 million upgrading the youth training facilities here, and I've got the worst intake yet, that absolute garbage. But behind the scenes, the youth intake of 14-year-olds that you can't see are actually world beaters. You've just got to stick with it.
I love that because it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Like,
I wonder if the game could throw little, maybe that's like a feature request, not maybe a feature request, but like, you know, you got the social media tab, right? And now what happens on social media, we now know about that 13-year-old or that 14-year-old in the academy. So it'll be really cool. Like when that intake day does happen, like maybe a few weeks later, you know about there's a 14-year-old in your academy that's just scoring 50 goals a season or whatever, because that's what tends to happen in youth academies. So it'll be really good to know that you're alert, like, oh, something is actually happening in the background. Because I guess it can be a bit disheartening just upgrading and then... What I do want to know is, though...
That would be really realistic, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a Birmingham fan, and it's not like Jude Bellingham made his debut and 20,000 Birmingham fans said, oh, he's good.
Yeah. It's like now, at Arsenal, we've got this lad called Ethan Neri. Some people might know him now because he's had 1 or 2 appearances of sub-bench, but we knew about this kid already before. Exactly. And it's just like, like people are just like, just giving him a chance, whatever, because he's 16, everyone. But it's like, no, because he's really good. Like, he deserves to be there. And we've seen it, and we've seen his rise. And there's obviously a few lads, but this is what now, obviously, the social media stuff, that's where you mentioned earlier about off camera, but you mentioned about where football is going. And that's sort of one way it's going as well, social media. So maybe that's going to have a bigger role in the game in the future.
I think it would also force a bit more user interaction with the social media feed as well, because I don't know about you boys, but I don't really touch upon it. But then again, I don't really interact with social media football accounts in general. So like, I get why it's there, and I guess that's probably the reaction. Like, no one really interacts with it, and there's always, if you do see something, it's always someone complains about something, someone says it's fine, which I guess is real life anyway. Good. Or occasionally you'll see something about a club is linked with a player, and you're like, oh, actually, I might have a little nose at this guy, and you'll do it that way. But I do like that, though, because you're right. The club's fans would know about a hot prospect in the youth system. Yeah. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. And again, it would be really funny as well. Funny is probably the wrong word, but imagine if you don't take notice of that as well. Like, it would be helpful for a little like a reminder or like an email from in the inbox to say, look, just so you know, there's a kid we need to keep our eyes on. We're expecting him in a couple of years, but then it's happening on the social media feed at the same time. Yeah, because you don't want to miss.
So that's sort of your grade, right? Like, you don't get that. So you know how now in your inbox you get that future, like, in May or whatever, this is what it's looking like. You'll get like, it's looking good or it's not looking good. But maybe with 13 and 14-year-olds, it's going to be very difficult for a coach to tell you that, look, this guy is going to be good, sort of thing. But maybe that sort of fan reaction is the indication that, oh, this fella might have a bit of potential to him.
But I think is that not the perfect time to mention it? To go like, here's your initial view of what's coming up. Oh, by the way, just so you know, there's a 13-year-old who looks tasty. Like, in a couple of years, we're going to get a right player on our hands here if it all works out.
Yeah. And of course, there will be no profile or anything that you can click it. It's just like a name that you just see. It's like, just, you got a couple. Yeah, but maybe that's as well. Imagine just playing this game is like, oh, I'm just going to have to stick with another year. I'm going to stick with the save another year. I could imagine a couple people being
but
like
even
that.
Then, though, in that youth only save, that might drive you on to continue.
Absolutely.
Years to go, because you might be sitting there going, I don't want this. But if you're, like Lama, you're in Sweden at the minute, say you're doing it as a youth only, and then you get a little sort of thing on, you might have the next Zlatan or the next Kim Kallstrom coming through your ranks. You might go, you know what? I'm going to stay. I want to see the next Jesper Blomqvist. That's what I want to do. I'm not no, I'm not leaving just yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really, I mean, probably not invited me on to talk about what I'd like to happen with youth development, but I think it'd be
Oh,
really
would love to
good
know.
to try
Yeah.
and have greater control actually over your youth intake. So maybe you could kind of, like Aaron was saying earlier, it can be really frustrating with the players you get through, and you've got to really adapt your tactics to fit.
Yeah.
Why not be able to set, you know, stronger parameters for your head of youth intake? So not just their preferred formation, but just say, look, I really want you to be looking out for, you know, players with high work rate to fit in with the way I want my team to play and things. But because it really frustrates me, you know, when you're waiting for your youth intake and you know you've got like an A grade player coming through, and they come through and they're like a 5'3" centre half, and you think, I've had my hopes up about this. What am I meant to do with this? So maybe like you could say to your head of youth intake, not the 5'3" kids, please. Come on.
But maybe even just to work on the personalities though, because
Yeah.
I think, and again, I don't know about yourselves, but I sort of think no matter what backroom staff I've got, I tend to get a lot of unambitious youngsters coming through.
Yeah.
And I don't, without sounding like an old man, I don't know whether these kids are getting too much too young, and they're thinking they've made it at 16. But it just seems really, it just doesn't seem like it would fit, like in the real world. Like if you're setting up this youth academy and this system, we'll use La Masia, we'll use Ajax as the examples of these are the schools you're bred in this specific way to. United, I suppose, as well, was that sort of like this is how you behave, this is the kind of characters we're trying to build. You wouldn't get as many unambitious players coming through. They'd have been booted out at
I think
14.
part of that, to kind of snap us back into the reality of this actually being a game rather than real life, is that there are personalities that they're not allowed to assign to real players. So they can't say, I don't know, Ollie Watkins is spineless or has low self-belief. So there's new personalities that enter the game with new gens, and it feels like there is a flood of these personalities that aren't given to real footballers. By the way, Ollie, I'm not suggesting for one moment you're spineless.
Well, I guess like, because I'm just trying to think about it logically, and you know now that the way that in my head I've got the set piece screen in my head, and the way you can move things. So like you can move like the near post runners and stuff, but like on the left hand side you could just drag like the box, so like the trackers and the aerial box, whatever it is. And in my head, I think like with youth development, you could have like options, or actually like pre-match. So you know pre-match, and you've got like you can focus on set pieces, but it only gives you an option of you've just got two. So I'm thinking like with the youth product, obviously you don't want to have a whole list of things, and because things going to come a bit ridiculous if you're saying, all right, tiki-taka, it must be professional, blah, 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 blah. Like, I do think you should have like a priority list. So like maybe personality is your priority, or a certain player style is your priority sort of thing. And then in my head, I've just got a way of logically how would you implement that in your game. And I was just thinking that there is a way that could happen in the game, I think. And it would improve that sort of game style. But I think it would improve the game generally. So it's not just suited for youth only. It's just for your save in general sort of thing. Yeah.
And you could obviously opt out of it if it's not the sort of thing that you want to get involved in and you think it's too much. But then you look at
head of youth development. You can, you know what
delegate.
I mean? Delegate
it out. But I mean, Aaron, you're the prime example of a manager who turns up and puts a lot of emphasis on what comes through the youth academy. I mean, where would Arsenal be if Wenger wasn't there going, right, we're all doing
exactly.
this?
Yeah.
Look at the fruits of, look at the benefit that can be gleaned from taking an interest in the youth academy.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes it's profit as well. So like you could be like the next Brighton as well, even. That's like the sort of, maybe that's not exactly youth only because they buy it and then sell for higher profits, but maybe Benfica again is a better example where you're actually just developing these guys and then you sell them off for that big high price, and then you kind of rinse and repeat sort of way, sort of thing. And that can be another way that people play the game as well.
Well, I guess that's the majority of football clubs, isn't it, Lama? Like your income is reliant on unearthing a gem and selling them off. I mean, there's only a few clubs in the world who don't have to do that. I suppose most clubs are reliant on shining them up and shipping them off.
That's true. If you look at some of the biggest clubs in England right now, so if you have a look at, say, Liverpool, for example, and their most iconic players from the last 20 years, youth intake players. You have a look at Chelsea and their most iconic players from the last 20 years. It's the same. You look at the Manchester United team right now, Rashford, Mainu. You look at Man City, Foden. There's something really special about developing players, particularly local players. And it's got that same buzz about it in Football Manager. That it feels even greater when the player that scores that winning goal in the cup final is that rough around the edges 15-year-old with the dodgy personality that you've polished up into a reasonable professional footballer.
We already create these affinities with the players regardless. And we're like you and I, Lama, we're long-term savers. We love a proper long journey save. So you do fall in love with these new gen players who aren't real. But I mean, if you've built a club from the ground up, then that just feels so much better. They're your players, Aaron. You've seen them come through school, you've seen them make their debut, and then of course they go and they lift the trophy and they've got the captain's armband on and they're a local lad. I mean, what a story.
But it's true though, it is a thing. And like Liverpool actually and Manchester City nowadays are very good examples. And you look at other players like James Trafford, they sold on for big money. Shea Charles as well, that went to Southampton. Like, if they don't make it, like, they're producing some really good quality. Liverpool recently as well, if you actually look at the transfers out and you're thinking, where are they getting the money from? A lot of it as well is coming from these youngsters who obviously reach up to a certain level and they can then play for that championship team and start on. That's what I think can improve in Football Manager in the future, because nowadays, like, I'm watching Arsenal, and Arsenal now, we've got like Saka, Reece Nelson, Emil Smith-Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, and we've got all these guys, and that is one thing that I find fairly difficult in Football Manager to replicate. And what's odd as well, I find is like it might be a little bit of a moan, is that I get like odd profiles. So like I'll get that centre-back who's 6'5", 18 jumping reach, but then heading 11. And it's just like, oh, come on, lad.
Oh, we've got a few of those, though.
One.
Like, they get up really, really high, but they don't quite know what to do when they're up there. Just like, hang on, I'm up here. What am I supposed to do?
Is that I genuinely feel I get that a lot. Like, I get that advanced forward who seems that's perfect, but they just have that one attribute that throws me off and like, why is that so low? Like, great pace, not off the ball, great pace, acceleration, finishing, anticipation, off the ball, 7. Just that doesn't add up.
All the attributes, composure 3.
Oh, great playmaking, passing 11. Just like, oh, come on, that hurts my heart. That hurts my heart. Today, so in Brazil, you get this weird intake. I'm not sure if you're aware of the dates of the intake in Brazil, Lama, but I was just doing like a tactic test, but I just got an early intake. Now, for the first time ever, I've got a kid that was like in the first team. So I do that thing which is ask assistant. So I just ask assistant. I'm like, who's this guy? He kept picking this guy called Vieira. I was like, who's this guy? So I just click his profile, see the new gen face. I was like, oh, where's he come from? So I'm scrabbling through, like, why is he in the game at the beginning? Then I just noticed that we've had an intake. Obviously, everyone in Brazil's had an intake. And I've got a guy that's just ready to go in the first team. I was pretty proud about that. Ask me if he's developed, though, in 6 months. No. I think he's reached. I think he's at his max already. Honestly, I played him so much. I've rinsed him, and he's just not getting better.
There's still half a dozen English teams sitting there going, "We'll take him. He'll be fine. We'll bring him over." So during that bit of conversation there, again, I was starting to think, Lama, that you don't just have to play it this way, youth only, do you? You know, with plotting your youth facilities, your plans, and recruitment. I mean, you can make it even more difficult, can't you? You could maybe do it attributeless.
No, you can't. You can't. I've tried it, and honestly, it sucked all of the fun out of Football Manager. So what was this? FM23, I think. I decided to do a youth-only attribute save starting in the Slovenian second
not even
division
a team familiar
at a club called they were called NK Dob. And I literally I picked them because then I could call the YouTube series The Dob Father, and I was attached to the name of the series before the concept, to be honest. And yeah, if you want a real challenge, I honestly think that the greatest challenge in all of Football Manager. Some say it's the have you heard of the
Oh, is
Vaduz
that the one where
challenge
they're the
in
Liechtensteinian team that
Liechtenstein?
play in the Swiss league and they can't?
They
Yes.
can't qualify for the
Yeah.
Champions League because they're not Swiss.
Yeah.
So you got to win the Conference League and then the Europa League. That's tough. That's brutally tough. I honestly think the hardest save in Football Manager though is to do a dafuge in England. So you take charge of a newly promoted
Mm.
club after a season of holidaying in the Vanarama, north or south. Do it as youth only, attributeless. I honestly I can't see how you can possibly not get sacked within 3 or 4 years doing that. I think that is the toughest way of playing the game. But if people are looking for greater challenges because they feel like they are perfecting the art of FM, then do
I am.
youth only and
No. So
attributeless.
I have quite a quick plug for Patreon here. Okay. I had a chat with Musterman, who is one of the attributeless skin makers. Makes a great
My guy.
attributeless skin. Lovely person to talk to, cracking content, and he got me doing what you've got me doing right now, Lama. Going, oh, youth only sounds great, and I'm like, oh, attributeless sounds great. And in my head, and I know I'm wrong, okay, and I know I'm wrong, okay, but for me, I feel like an attributeless, data-driven, because we were talking about data-driven saves with Musterman. So if you aren't part of the Patreon, go and have a listen to it. Sign up to Patreon, go and have a listen to it. He is coming back on later on in the future to talk about some other stuff. So we'll do that and we'll break things down. But in my head, I thought data-driven and attributeless might be easier at those lower levels because you don't know any of the players anyway. They're all pretty crap. And therefore, you're not really relying on much attributes anyway. Because what difference does it matter if your fullback has crossing of 4 or 5? Like, it doesn't really matter, does it? They're not gonna be any good anyway. So you might as well just have this little description of plays at right back. Like that's all that they've got. Right? Centre midfielder. Oh, he could probably last 90 minutes. Right? Oh, he's a box to box midfielder for this level. Like, is quick, right? Striker there. That's all you need, surely. And I know I'm trivializing it, and I know that you've got that look in your face going, go on, Jameson, see how long you last.
That's the thing though as well, because a lot of these players sometimes it can be like just selecting your goalkeeper at these levels might be a big thing because one goalkeeper might just be really bad at something that you actually quite need or that's important in that role, but obviously you can't see it. But moving on to the pitch players as well, there might be like picking your left back. There might be a left back that has a certain attribute that you could take advantage of, but obviously you just don't know. And then you're just picking a left back. So you say that the crossing, but obviously it's not just the crossing. There's composure, there's technique, there's vision, there's all these other things as well that obviously will affect that crossing attribute. Which is that these are other things that even physical attributes as well. Because down in those lower leagues, your coach and your assistant that's feeding you this information aren't going to be perfect at their job as well. So they're not going to tell you everything that he's got great pace, but his agility is a bit meh, balance is a bit meh. It might just be like one or two things that he's pointing out to you. He's fast.
He turns up regularly. Good.
Do you know what I mean? He's inconsistent, and so is he. And you're trying to compare the two, and you're like, well, they're both inconsistent, and you're sort of like, I'm just going to test one and then test the other sort of thing. But you can also be messing up like the dynamics as well. You just don't really know what to do sometimes when you don't see the attributes.
Interesting. So I guess, Lama, ultimately the question is, what's the end goal with the youth only? Like, people ask, what's the end goal with a journeyman, for example? When do you call it the end? When do you know when you're finished? I guess, some people see a save as you win the Champions League, it's over. You win the Premier League, it's over. You win the title, it's over. Is it the Champions League or the equivalent with the youth only? Is it, or is it domination? Is it, as Aaron says, build a nation? Do you then create your team into the national team and go and win the World Cup?
Yeah, I think a lot of that depends on the club you take over. So, if you do a youth only save with Barcelona, then you are looking for European glory. If you do it with Kettering,
Just a spy.
then
Avoid
maybe
administration.
not. I think what I would say is with youth only saves, it might be one of the few types of saves for where the end point is actually the launch of the next version of Football Manager. You imagine you're doing a Kettering youth only save. You can be plugging away at that for 40, 50 seasons, and you might still have distance to go. And then the new game comes out, and you think, "Oh, all right, I'm gonna start a new save now." I know that there are people that do youth only saves with Ajax every year, and because they watch their games on full highlights, they play maybe 2 to 3 seasons per game cycle. So they bring through 2 or 3 youth intakes, but they still love it because they manage the under 19s as well as the first team squad. So even though they don't get to see these youth players develop, they don't mind that. And then the new game comes out, and they
what I was
going
to say though, obviously now you can transfer your old save into the new Football Manager now. And just about
of course you can. Yeah.
on this, but we should say on this version, 23 to 24. We don't know whether you can do it 24 to 25 yet.
I'll be surprised. But I would be surprised given it was just a new feature.
New build. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know.
But I would say the end goal. That's it. The end goal for me. I think if in Europe it would be lifting the Champions League with from goalkeeper to striker, all youth intake players. I think that moment walking out the champion. I'm thinking about it now. I'm getting a bit emotional. I'm genuinely getting what the hell's happening. But I genuinely think I'll get a bit emotional if that happens. I think that's actually might be a dream.
What you can't see, Tony, is that on Aaron's screen.
I'm starting to think about this now. I think that would be the dream. Yeah, that would be
already quit.
He loaded it up 40 minutes ago.
I think I need to start setting end goals as well. I think sometimes I just start these things like, it'll be fun at Benfica because obviously they're known to bring these players in, sort of thing. So when you're just playing it and there's no actual end goal, it's just like it gets to a point you're just pressing continue and you just get into the next game just for the sake of it, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But I think, if I had the save and the end goal winning the Champions League with the squad, goalkeeper to striker, all youth intake players, that would be a pretty amazing feeling. Yeah, exactly.
You've also got loads of checkpoints on the way to that journey, haven't you? So your first goal is, can I win something? But then, can I win something?
Yeah.
Just 1 to 11 all through my youth intake. Can I name a match day squad where every player is a new gen that's come through the club?
It'll be interesting to see them win their youth cups as well. That would be amazing.
I like those Premier League years ones where you get there. Well, this team was the first team that fielded a team entirely of players who weren't from X nation, and then you can have your own going. We fielded a team entirely from that street there. So they all lived just down the road. I like the sound of this. I do like the sound of this. And I am aware I've said some foolish things on the podcast, both historically and tonight. and I don't know, maybe, because I'm already starting to think of my FM25 llama, and I don't think this is off the table,
Well, so you have to brace yourself, I think, with the youth only save that it is going to be frustrating at points. The one that I did was absolutely soul destroying at points. But any youth only save, you cannot comprehend how crushingly disappointing it is to get a rubbish youth intake, or even for the preview to be rubbish. And to know, do you know what? For the next 18 months, I've got nothing. I've got nothing. Literally, I've just got this 5'3" goalkeeper who's D-rated called Simon. And that's literally...
Yeah, that's the annoying one, isn't it? When you do get an A, but then it's the goalkeeper like,
Yeah. So the lows of it are pretty low, but honestly, the highs of finally winning something, and every single player is somebody that you've nurtured and brought through. And I've had saves where I've actually taken over the under 18s as well, And, even just winning the league with the
Yeah,
under 18s.
yeah.
I'm on to something with these boys. Give them 3 years in the first team. I don't think there's any greater high than that in Football Manager. Which is an odd sentence, highs in Football Manager. But it really is satisfying when you play this style. But at points, when you actually just, save the game and turn it off, you walk away thinking,
Yeah, I'm still thinking about the catering, man, because it's like, you've done youth only, so like you've got this idea like you're gonna get these youngsters, you're gonna love them, but then you just then defeat the whole purpose by not being able to see their whole profile. It's just like, I love you because of your flair, but now you've just taken that away from me. That's yeah. But the challenge, though, the challenge sounds like something I'm into, but it's just automatically, I think, just not being able to see their attributes, kind of like, I can't wait for that intake day because I've got nothing to see.
Yeah, I'll be brutally honest. Having done a youth-only attributeless save, I will never do one again. And I mean that quite seriously. When you do youth only, it does take away an element of fun of the game, because scouting and transfers and signing is a huge part of playing it, which is why some people like to play youth only, but they can still sign people for their academies. But when you also take away attributes, you don't even get that joy of youth intake day, of clicking on a player and seeing, oh my God, they've got 16 acceleration. Instead, you just click on them and head to their coach report and go, oh yay, they don't hate big matches. I
think I've got a new rule. I think I want to do one, but I think I've got a new rule. So in England, right, the second league, so you've got the men's, the senior. Is it the under 23s under? So then I'm thinking I can sign under 23s, but they obviously have to go into that under 23 squad for the year or get loaned out, one of the two. And then sort of through the years, we have to look to sell on, possibly for profit, rather than keeping them as like one of your intake actual players. I think that's the only way that it could keep me interested in still scouting and stuff.
Well, could you do it
for your development squad rather than your first squad?
Could you then tweak it so it's a head of youth development save, so that you're basically focusing on just recruiting for that, and then you maybe don't control the games themselves or something, but you're busy buying all the players, these young players, and hoping that the club put them into the first team. They might sell them off, but you've done your job. You've brought the players into the club llama. Would that just about be a way around it, maybe?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's got to play the game the way they find the most enjoyable and enthralling, haven't they? And one of the things we've not got onto yet is there are very much two facets to youth saves. There's the how you try and maximize the quality of youth players you have coming through your own youth intakes, but then you've also got the how do you develop youth players once they've come through or you've signed them as well. And they're both like really interesting aspects to try.
That was a point that Aaron made just there about loaning players out, and I saw there was like sort of a reaction from yourself, the llama, like sort of to go. Oh yeah, there's two ways of doing that. You can either loan them out and develop them, as we say. We've mentioned things like feeder clubs before, like loan clubs out and sort of with the loan farm, I suppose it has been known as well. Or you put them in the team and you work them yourself. Like you've paid for the facilities, you might as well put the graft in. So, as we always say, there's no right or wrong answer. There's just different.
Possibly why Brazil actually could be a decent league to do it, because you've got to play like 1 million games a year anyway. So you may actually have to end up relying on some of these youth players. So maybe again, Brazil is a decent destination for that. But there might also be another destination for that, Tony. There is. Oh yeah,
there is. I think there is. Right. We weren't going to mention this on this episode because obviously we're going to try and give everything the youth only view, Llama. But you're a man who loves a save idea, right? Okay, so not to steal from the youth only thunder. Okay. Yeah. Now we have been over the past however many months it's been since we rebranded and became the FM show. Our community have been knocking at the door saying, have you got a community challenge? We want a community challenge. What have you got for us? And Aaron and I have been a bit like, well, we don't know yet, because obviously we've been involved in our own saves. We're trying to think of something that's interesting, that can give a bit of variety and people can play it however they want. And I think we've come up with something that might be good fun. Okay? Quick question just while this episode's on. Have you subscribed to the FM show, either on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from if you're listening on audio feed? If you haven't, can we ask a little favor? Maybe you might want to consider doing that. You might want to help us out. If you do want to help us out, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to us. Of course, if you leave a like on the video, if you've enjoyed it, leave a comment below. Obviously, it's the same on audio platforms as well. Little comments, little 5-star reviews and that. They really mean a lot to us, and it helps boost the show, and it means that people are enjoying it and it becomes more visible. Obviously, you can do that via social media as well. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, however you want to do that, or come and join the Discord. The Discord is a great place to hang out. You meet like-minded individuals from the community. You get direct access to myself, producer Steve, RDF Tactics. What more can you say? I mean, that seems totally fair. It costs nothing, and it really helps the show out. So hopefully, that's the sort of thing you might consider. If you do want to give us a little bit of love, come and support us. Come and subscribe to the show, because you know what? We enjoy it, and we like you. So you know what? Back to the episode.
Come on, lay it on me.
Everyone, strap yourselves in. How does it sound if we have a save in Portugal? Maybe.
I'm with you so far.
Aaron's been mentioning Benfica a lot throughout this episode. Benfica sounds good, but it's a bit restrictive, isn't it? Just taking Benfica. What about Porto? It's been 20 years since they've won the Champions League. Porto's a story. Benfica have got the Bella Gutman curse. Porto. But then Sporting are doing really good, and Gokaresh is pretty class, isn't he? So how's about, instead of being really descriptive on the community challenge, how about we give you the option? We're going to be in Portugal for, did we think 5 years, Aaron? 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah, 3 to 5. It'll depend on, I think, the player. Yeah, there's going to be no expectation. It'll be dependent on the player.
3 to 5 years. Take either Benfica, Porto, or Sporting, and let us know how you get on. And if you want to make it harder for yourselves, take the next step down, or the next step down, or the next step down. And if you want to make it really hard, attributeless. Do it that way. But what do you reckon, Llama? Portugal? Is that fun?
Do you know what? I mean, I come up with a lot of save ideas, and I've not played them all myself. I've never managed in Portugal.
Oh, no, you haven't.
Always wanted to, because it's
Yeah.
that beautiful mix of like that good South American influence, but you've got lots of European stars head there. Portugal create great players themselves. You've always got that challenge of if you're one of the big clubs, well, there's 2 other huge ones, but you've also got that beautiful fairy tale of, I think there's only ever been 2 seasons in Portuguese football where one of the big 3 haven't won the title. So what about, becoming the 6th ever club to win it, or win a second title for Boavista or Belenenses? It's a beautiful challenge.
It's fun, isn't it? Because as you say, you've got those you. Aaron's already gleaning, like Aaron's been in Portugal before. He's had a great time there.
Portugal's, honestly, it's generally one of those saves that I don't like testing tactics in, because I don't want to ruin any sort of fun or anything. So I only really manage in Portugal if it's a tactical recreation, like recreating Benfica in life, or it's an actual save. I don't really like using the Portuguese. I save that. It's generally, it's just so fun. And I got to a point as well with Real Ave, I don't know how to pronounce the second bit, where we was winning the league, but it didn't feel like boring or dragging. It just felt generally just fun. Like, oh, we're gonna try and win it again. Especially when you're trying to chase, like you mentioned, you were chasing these teams. So even though we won the league 3 times, we're still not breaking the top 3 teams in Portugal sort of thing. And it's like, it's just fun. But obviously you get to that point as well. Remember, you're in Portugal, so a couple of these players will want to go to Real Madrid or whatever. But also you can't sign Ronaldo. You have to sign the player that could be Ronaldo, sort of thing as well. So you are signing, again, these young players. You're kind of forced to go in that direction when you're managing Porto, which I like as well.
And not just the younger players, you can bring back some elder statespeople as well. Players that can come back and add a bit of experience. They might be the guy that just, is the final piece of the jigsaw. So that's what we do. We're going to post the save file up in Discord, and we'll do a full sort of breakdown of rules and sort of like things that we would suggest that you might want to consider whilst doing the save. So we'll put all that in there, and then next episode we'll do like a Portuguese breakdown as well, of sort of like highlighting some of the teams and stuff, and a bit more about the country and you know, ways to play, that sort of stuff. So I think that's quite good fun. But it has that flair of like, you're going to be rewarded for attacking football, possession, passing style, technically gifted, and then, as you say, these little splatterings of flair players that just rock up rather than, you know, just workhorses. So it could be fun, that one. Could be fun. And, you know, and I'm like you, Llama. I've not done Portugal either, and I'm quite excited about that.
Well, good luck with it, because you're not going to beat Aaron.
Oh, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But
well, Stinger, to be fair, I think has done the best Portuguese save. So
yeah, with Sal Galosh.
Yeah. So if he's even interested in joining, he probably would just walks that league knowing the inside and outs.
Exactly, yeah. Although he didn't win the title in 5 years from the bottom division, so he won't win the challenge. But,
Yeah.
it's fine, it's fine.
That wasn't me, Stinger. That wasn't me.
No, I'm just saying. It's a brilliant series. If you haven't watched it,
It's a brilliant save.
Go and watch it on YouTube. We'll pop a link in the description to go and have a check of that. And of course, all of Llama's stuff as well, particularly the attributeless in Slovenia. You definitely have to go and watch that one and see how we get on. So I suppose then, if we go back to youth only, Llama, any sort of like lasting thoughts? Like what's been the highlight, I suppose, of a youth only? Like, because there might still be some people on the fence going, I mean, he's done it, but it doesn't sound like he's enjoyed it.
Yeah, so you'd have to set yourself up for that. Like, it is a long-term thing, and sometimes, you know, when you get a bad youth intake, you think, I could just go out and sign this left back. Why am I waiting years for one to come through? But it is incredibly satisfying. And this is going to sound incredibly nerdy, and I do apologize for this, but one of the best things about a youth only save is the ability to create spreadsheets. You know, so what I do is I get Excel up on one screen, I have Football Manager on the other, and when the youth intake comes through, I enter the attributes of every single player that comes through. And then every year that they're with the club, I re-enter their attributes so I can track their improvement. And it's just, sometimes, this is really bad, I shouldn't even be admitting this. I don't even have Football Manager open. I just sit and look at the spreadsheet.
That's why I'm laughing. That's literally why I'm laughing, because he said the best part of Football Manager of his game is the spreadsheet part. So I was laughing at the way. The best part is getting out of the game.
Seriously. So sometimes I've just got like a spare hour and I won't even load up FM. I'll just open my Excel spreadsheet and I'll think, do you know what? His pace actually went up by 5 over 3 seasons here.
Mate, you're preaching to the choir here. Like, as I say, I spoke with Musterman, and again, we'll follow this up with the public episode in the future. That's exactly what he does with the data-driven stuff as well. Gets the end of season data, exports it into a spreadsheet, gets the next season, exports it, then compares whether this is like a one-off trend or whether it's increasing or decreasing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, tell me more about this. How does this work? Because
yeah, it's really fun, because then you can start like drawing correlations between personalities and attribute gains, and you start then thinking, well, I really should be logging their game time and how many appearances they've made and whether that has an exponential impact on their development. And then you start thinking, you start marking on your spreadsheet when you've changed heads of youth developments and whether that makes it. And then you start doing crazy things, like, so you start working out averages. So per youth intake, you get every single attribute of every single player that's come through, divide it by that number of attributes to work out what the average score is of that youth intake. And then, like, if you change your head of youth development, has your average gone up from 12 to 13? And if it has, you think, brilliant, I've made a great appointment. And yeah, you can go very deep. It gets very dark with a youth intake save.
I'm a big fan of it though, Aaron. It sounds fun, right?
I think that's my only downside, because I'm not that sort of person that can. I like to be in one place. So even like when I was doing football day, because I realized how bad it could come across. So when I'm actually doing like the football scouting and stuff in real life as well, the way I've got it set up is that the football's on one screen, but I've got my workstation on the other, so I don't have to go in and out, in and out, in and out of things. It's like I'm just working continuously. With Football Manager, though, especially with the data-driven one, historic data, because you can't go back, and we mentioned this before, because you can't go back into last year. You kind of have to save your game out to a certain point, and then you save as, then load your game back, or just use a spreadsheet or use a different app for the data stuff. But for me, the moment I start going in and out, that I'm losing
the immersion.
My immersion, my groove in Football Manager, and it just becomes a bit of a distraction rather than helpful. Yeah, but that's just me and my obviously personality in the way I work as well.
I should also point out at this point that I love the idea of all this, but I don't do numbers very well. So I'll sit with it all on the screen going, this is great, but I don't know what any of it means. Like, so
that's where your Twitch chat will help you out, though, won't it? It could become like a real collaborative save.
Oh, Llama, my recruitment streams are 2 streams long anyway. Could you imagine if I did it with data? It would be like an entire week's worth of, right, so this person has made 1,900 progressive passes in the last 3 years. Now, is that because he's playing as an advanced role, or is that because of the tactic? Now, he has historically played in these positions here.
Do you know what? There's a market for that, though. Like my youth only kind of like guru, my Yoda, is a Swedish streamer called Michelino, who really knows about this stuff. And I've sat in his streams and literally he's not had Football Manager on the screen during the 3 hours. It's just an Excel spreadsheet, and everybody's gripped. They're like, "Go on, create another macro for us," and that's it. People love it.
We need to shout Michelino out actually, and we will get him on at least on Patreon and possibly on the public as well if we can do to link the times up. He's created a Yorkshire database, which he's currently using at the minute. Build a Nation Yorkshire. Aaron, you'd have loved that a couple of years ago.
Every version of FM. But his other passion is youth development. He did one with Santos where he was trying to create the next Neymar and Pele. And literally every stream you were just looking at a spreadsheet and you were really disappointed when he actually flicked back to FM. You're like, no, get that spreadsheet back.
Oh my!
Yeah, my chat are often disappointed when I put FM on. They're like, "Oh, this again."
See, that's what I'm saying. In my chat, it's just like very, very FM heavy. I think they're used to the way I play, and I think that's why people watch me. They know when watching me stream, you're gonna see like half a season sort of thing, rather than like because other people you might see like 4 or 5 games, 6 games. Of me, you're gonna get like so many games. If you go back to go get a cup of tea and come back, you might have missed like half a season. You might have missed a big part.
Llama, I want to ask you a question that we've got from a viewer. I don't know if you can answer or not, but I think you might be able to, or if not, we'll get someone else who can. It's coming from Soup Zorro on YouTube. Says, "Hi guys, love the podcast. Keep it up. We'd love to hear your thoughts on setting up a database for a save." Okay, seen a couple of content creators do videos on it, but honestly, the database is something that I still struggle with every save. Do you have any advice? I tend to go either with the big and massive game-breaking set of leagues or too small, where all of a sudden I have Nigerians playing in the Indonesian league, getting national team call-ups. So it's a tricky one, that one, isn't it? Because if you get it wrong, then you get it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of it is driven by what your machine can handle, I guess. But I mean, even though I've got a sort of a relatively good PC, I'm still quite restrictive with the number of leagues that I load, because I like my game to move quickly, especially if I'm streaming it. You know, I like to be able to get to that game day swiftly. So I always set databases up by clustering. So I'll always load a large database so that there's a good number of players from around the FM universe generated. But then if I'm managing in, say, Iceland, I will make sure that I load all of those Nordic leagues down to their lowest level. And I'll also probably load leagues where Icelandic players typically move to, like the Netherlands and Belgium and England, for example. And, you know, I'm getting greedy now. I'd probably always throw in the big 5 leagues, Serie A, Liga, Bundesliga as well. But yeah, I've never been the kind of person that will load, you know, the Bulgarian second division when I'm managing in Malaysia. So I kind of like cluster geographically.
Yeah.
Aaron, do you load players from specific nations as well, or do you just?
So what I tend to do is each year Football Manager comes out, I do it every year because I still don't actually understand it. So it's why it's difficult for me to actually even explain it. But what I do is go on a massive research on forums and things like that. And then I start setting up my database that way. But you start finding out things. So for a long while, I should be saying, I've been playing my game with not many things loaded and the detail level fairly low. But then it got to a point where I was like 5 seasons in, I'm like, wait, why is Pep Guardiola still at Manchester City? And then I noticed that no managers were moving if that league wasn't loaded and the detail was loaded as well. So it's like, there's a lot of things. And it's like, if you do get it wrong, just one mistake could force you to actually have to restart all over again. I would say trial and error. When the game, or when you do have time, just trial and error different database and stuff and find out what suits you as well, what's perfect for you. Do you know the sort of nations that you will be looking to grab players from anyway as well? That's going to be fairly important. But I don't know. It's a weird one as well. Now that I've got this PC as well, again, it's difficult to actually tell how things like the speed of things, because I've got a database where it's literally telling me 1 star and I'm playing it. It's like, this is clearly not 1 star.
That's a point as well, isn't it? Because the star rating at the start of the game is not.
It throws you
really
off. Yeah,
accurate,
that can throw you off completely. Really listen.
I think it depends on the quality of your assistant manager, the star rating.
Yes, yeah. Well, mine does, because I got my mod Rugio to set up the database for Build a Nation. I was like, how do I do this? And he did what you've said there, Lama, about like adding things like Australia, because there's quite a lot of obviously Greek contingent in Australia or Croatia. Maybe we can get that. So I was like, right, fine. You set it up. You show me what I'm going to do, so I don't break it and mess it up.
Yeah.
Point you made there, Aaron, as well about detail, is some people complain that they're not selling players as easy, and it can be down to the detail level in the league, where if you've not got, say for example, you're managing in Portugal and you're trying to sell players and going, well, why are no Premier League clubs taking my players? If you've not got the Premier League loaded up, then why would those clubs be instantly trying to buy them? I know maybe sort of like it's not as black and white as that, but you're not selling your sort of like your second level down to the second level down the league sort of thing.
It's certainly not black and white. Like even at home, if you test it, if you just load up a game with a small database, then you might see that from the beginning, certain teams are after certain players. But then if you don't load it on a large, then those players are not wanted. Or it could be vice versa. And it's because those sort of transfer targets, depending what that team has obviously in a large database, their players might be loaded. They might not need your left back anymore because now their second team left back is now loaded. So your left back is not in such high demand anymore. And it could work the other way around as well. So it's just it's a bit of a weird one when it comes to database. I think you need an expert with a database talk.
Excellent. And so befriend someone who knows databases is the answer, I think. Aaron, we had another comment as well regarding glossaries. I think you mentioned on the episode with Daljit.
Yeah, with is it Ian Voss 5534 about the glossary thing. I recently played Warhammer 40k RPG. You've lost me, completely lost me there. While knowing nothing about. Okay, so you're on the same page as me then about the Warhammer lore. As a glossary, they had certain terms that required a lore explanation highlighted, and I could use the mouse over them, and a little pop-up quickly explaining that term would come up. Instead of a big glossary, they could do that. And in some cases, they already do that. So when something like rest defense comes up, they could just make sure it's clear to you. Or make sure you could just use your mouse and then the explanation will come up on your screen. I do feel an actual glossary is still very important rather than just hovering over things in your game. I don't know, because even like he did mention it as well, or they mentioned it, that there's sort of that glossary in game, but even that I still think that is very hard, because in their glossary they've had to shortly word it, and even that could be a bit confusing. So even if you hover over the positive mentality, just reading that, you might feel that you're getting a certain thing, but still you've got to do a lot to get that sort of description, what they're saying in positive mentality, and how that the wing backs are cautiously get further forward. But if you're using complete wing backs, they're not now just going to be cautiously. They're just going to bomb further forward sort of thing. So I still think there still needs to be a glossary in understanding things, especially that things like the statistic that they've introduced into the game if you want to do database, so someone like Masterman might be easier for him because he has a better understanding about some of these metrics, whereas someone that's just getting into the data game and they want to learn, they're just going to get put off because there's so much data in the game they don't quite understand, or even dribble completed. Like, they're not actually quite sure what a dribble completed is. Like, they might not know. It doesn't mean he's dribbling with the ball, or does he have to get past a person for it to be a dribble sort of thing? So I do think there needs to be a glossary, and it's things are just very, very clear about what they are. Maybe not everything, because Daljit said as well, there's certain things you don't want to completely poop the curtain back, and because you want your imagination as well to be involved in the game. But there is certain things like metrics where I feel is very important to thoroughly explain. So yeah, maybe there can be a hover, but I still think added to that, like a game manual, there should be like a whole big list of the glossary. One annoying thing though is that when you press continue, there's hints and tips that come up on your screen. I can't find anywhere with just like all the hints and tips on one page, and that's really annoying me. Really, I just said hints and tints again.
Hints and tints.
Sounds like a hair salon in some nice part of London.
Because there's so many hints and tips in the game. So I saw something about standard attack and width, and like, because it went so quick, as like, oh, I've missed that, and like, I thought that was going to be very interesting as well. But it's just like, it was there, it's gone, and I can't. I've been searching the internet for so long for it, hoping that someone on Reddit or someone's got it there, but nothing.
What do you reckon, Llama? A glossary? Would that be of a help?
Yeah, I'd actually be a big fan. I'm a huge fan of somebody who doesn't really understand tactics. Sometimes I don't press buttons because I don't understand what it would do, and I read the explanations, and I'm not really any of the wiser. So, yeah, I'd really like deeper explanations. Really.
Yeah.
Do you remember the old days, Tony? Where, maybe even Championship Manager days, where you used to be able to buy a guidebook to go with it. Do you remember those?
Yeah, do indeed.
Yeah, so like a glossary.
I'm just all I'm thinking now is a side project, right?
Because it's difficult, isn't it? Because like just adding simple things like an overlap, like people don't really, they just think it's just affecting one thing, but really you're affecting like 3-4 different things. You're affecting how your winger behaves, how your wingback behaves. And it's not in the game as well. It mentions about marauding fullbacks, but then when you're speaking with other tacticians like Daljit, it's anyone that moves on the outside. But the game will just tell you fullback sort of thing. But it's also, if your Mazzala, for an example, moves on the outside and your winger holds up the ball, he's expecting a player to overlap, and now that can suddenly become your central midfielder, which again is not really explained. There's just little slight things like overlap. It decreases the mentality of your winger. Many people just don't know that. And it's just like, for me, it's something so obvious. I see it because I'm on that screen literally 20 hours out of the 24 in a day. But there's so many things in the game that people aren't really familiar with.
Yeah, well, people have got different intelligences as well. So when people like you and Stinger and Daljit, when you watch real life football, you kind of see the whole pitch and you're studying player movements and interactions and passing grids. When I watch football, I have quite a creative mind, but not a very analytical one. I just follow the ball. So I'm just, I'm a Birmingham City season ticket holder. I go every week. I never see the whole pitch. I'm just watching whatever is happening with the ball right now. So to be able to read a broader description of what these tactical implementations do to your game, it would be a huge boost.
Yeah. Because I mentioned one before, innit? I mentioned that the tempo for me is a big one where I don't fully know what. So I know like simply just moving the ball back to front fairly quickly. So I know that element, but there's obviously, that's not just it. There should be, or there will be other things that's affecting. But again, it's just very difficult, even just watching the game sometimes. So again, like I can use very high tempo. So I remember creating tactics, and it's very difficult to explain to people in a comment and not like this in the podcast. I remember creating a tiki-taka tactic or a possession tactic, but using high tempo. And then in the video, you can clearly see a 30-pass move. I even put it on Twitter. I showed everyone the goal, 30-pass move, but which is using short passing, but a very high tempo. But then other people would think, no, you can't do tiki-taka. It must be slow. But then down to the players and the roles that I've chosen, my halfback isn't going to be first. My halfback is not going to think, I'm going to lob this further forward straight away because of the way he plays. And he's fairly defensive minded. He's fairly cautious. If that pass is not on, he's going to just simply turn back like we saw in the video, and he's going to turn back and he's going to pass it. So yeah, it's just like there's certain things that is very difficult to understand. And there's even pressing tactics, like pressing buttons. Like you said, you might not press something because you don't fully understand it. I've got a fullback on the left, he's got cross more often, but then I want to work the ball into the box. Like, what's going to happen? If I'm reducing the cross, but the fullback's got cross more often, what instruction is he listening to? Like, what's actually going to happen with that combination? And that's where people kind of get scared of selecting certain instructions.
Good point. No answer at this point.
I don't know neither. And that's one thing, again, I don't know. So if I'm trying to create a tactic that works the ball into the box, then I will simply try and use a fullback on attack, but then I might use cross from the byline and try and get a pullback rather than just like a direct cross. That's
Fair point. Final one. Nick Fury 8973 says, one thing not talked about is body language and emotions. In game, of course, not just out in the real world. You could be bringing on someone who is nervous and he might be more error prone than your tired players, especially wingbacks.
Oh yeah, that was talking about the celebration, the substitution episode,
Substitutions,
right?
yeah.
When to make
your subs. And have you seen this, Lama? Have you seen the sort of the way that players hold themselves in the game now? Sometimes they look a bit, not really feeling it, or they look a bit jittery.
Yeah, I was streaming yesterday and I went to make a sub and I saw the body language of the player I just brought on. And I was like, nope, he's coming straight back off again. I just brought a nervous centre half on and I was trying to see out their game. I thought, no, actually, I'm going to retrench on that.
Oh, my days.
And my personal favourite is when you get the response of players just come on and goes, would prefer to have stayed on the bench.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's the biggest annoyance for me, man. That's just like, why? Especially when it's a youngster as well. Just like, wow, how could you prefer to be on the bench? Why would you prefer to be cold?
And it's probably one that's knocked on your door during the week to say, I'm a bit disappointed with my game time.
Yeah, literally.
I would love to play, but not today.
Yeah.
Not today. Like, you know what I mean? Not for me.
But the body language thing, I get this little... I can smell when my centre-back is about to dwell on the ball. I've got this little smell. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if his shoulders are a bit too in or something. I don't know what it is. But the moment he receives that ball, and if he steps on it and he looks up and he doesn't know where to pass it, then I know he's dwelling. He's crumbling under pressure right now.
You can see it on penalty shootouts as well. Did we mention this last week? Like, because they take so long to walk up, you can almost spot the ones who don't look like they fancy it now.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder if they add that new science. I don't know if you've seen it. Like, some people are now talking about how penalty takers, those now, if you try and take the penalty quick, they tend to be the players that miss penalties. And now, but if you're those penalties that take the time and do the deep breath, I wonder that it'll be a nice animation in the game. But then obviously it'll be fairly easy to predict who's gonna sort of miss, right? You'll sort of know, like, okay, he's gonna miss. But again, there is body language, because I done the penalty shootout with England in the final. The moment Ben Chilwell stepped up, is like he's missed. And it was the winning penalty as well. So it was 3-4, whatever it is. And I need to score that penalty to win it. And it's just like, as soon as I saw Ben Chilwell and I see him put the ball down and the way he's walking by, it's like, he's missed, man. I put the headphones off and I just walked off because I just knew it. Oh, man. But the body language thing is real. It's real.
It is real. And I think you need to let us know more things that you've spotted on the game, more questions you've got for us. Aaron, if people have questions, where can they get in touch?
They can get in touch on Twitter at the FM Shop. This part always catches. It's the pressure. It's the pressure. Twitter at FM Show Pod. We're on.
This is why I have to put a graphic up, Lama. Like, because to be fair, it's written in a script in front of him, and it's
the pressure. No, the thing is that I don't want to use the script to see it, because then it just feels like a big letdown. I like to know that it's at the FM Show Pod. But the thing is, because I'm expecting it, I'm just waiting. Sometimes I'm waiting at the part of the episode like, it's coming. I thought it was going to come earlier, actually. It's like, it's coming. And it's like, nah, it's not coming.
Don't
but
listen to him,
at the
Aaron. I think you did a great job.
Oh, it's Brilliant job. It's at the FM Show Pod on social media. It's the FM Show Pod at gmail.com for all of your longer correspondence. And Aaron, where can you get extra bonus content?
They can go to patreon.com. I'm skipping the www part this time. patreon.com/the FM Show Pod. That's patreon.com/the FM Show Pod.
Yeah, over on Patreon, you can get loads of bonus content. You get an extra weekly bonus episode every single Monday. You get all the back catalogue as well, Aaron. I think there's about 30 hours worth of content on there at the minute now, of course, including a chat with Llama where we talk about the Diffuse Challenge, which is a good conversation to have. And then we've got like some Tactics Garage stuff on there as well. You can become a part of the Patreon from as little as £3 a month if you can afford to do so. And of course, you can also follow us on Discord. Come and hang out over there. But Llama, we've got you on. We need to plug you. Tell people where people can find more Llama content.
Bang FMLlama into whatever social media you use, or check out The Manager's Seat on YouTube. That's where you'll find me, Stinger, JDFM, bringing you FM hints, tips, guides, save ideas, the full gamut.
Absolutely top tier content. There'll be links in the descriptions below. Do go and follow all that. I think that's a podcast. I think we've done a good show there, everyone. Youth only saves covered. New community challenge unveiled. Almost social media handles done in one go. Almost. Thank you very much. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, drop a like on the video. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment as well. If you're on audio platforms, hit that subscribe button and retweet whatever we post out. That was episode 38 of the FM show, hosted by myself, Tony Jameson. Our co-host was Aaron Falloon, aka RDF Tactics. Our guest, the one and only FMLlama. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Stay safe, and we will see you soon.
Want to learn even more about Football Manager? Subscribe to the Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/thefmshowpod. Don't forget to rate and review, and follow along on the socials at the FM Show Pod.